Welcome back to Mathy Goodness. Today we're talking about multiplication. Today we're talking about multiplication strategies, the foundational skills of learning to multiply. Before we get started, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so that you can keep up with all of the mathy goodness. Today we're going over the very beginning skills of multiplication. So that would be for kiddos at the end of second grade or beginning of third grade typically. So what is multiplication? The first thing that we teach our students is that multiplication is a faster way to write repeated addition. It's important for them to see equal groups being added together repeatedly. Just like with any new learning, it is important that we do not skip the concrete and representational steps for children. In concrete learning, students are going to use items or manipulatives to make equal groups and add them together. In the representational phase, they might be drawing these equal groups or drawing arrays, and they might be adding a number repeatedly, a long string of the same addend over and over again. That repetition is the pattern that they need to catch on to understand the basics of multiplication. Another important understanding for multiplication comes with the language that we use. Take a look at the language here and how it might tie into a foundational understanding of what multiplication really is. When students begin to learn about multiplication, the first thing they might see is the grouping model. So 4 times 5 would mean 4 groups of 5. So a lot of times, once we put that times sign meaning groups of, it helps clear things up for students. They might also see the array model where items are arranged in equal rows. So 4 times 5 would mean 4 rows of 5, where rows go across. Both of these can be interchangeable and help students understand the language of what the operation means. Now that we have the basics of multiplication, a lot of parents will want to jump straight into having their child memorize the times tables and practice their facts. I caution you to wait on this. What we really want are strategies built way before we have fluency with facts. Comment down below, did you have fact practice or time tests when you were a child learning multiplication? Now that you're an adult, think back. How did it make you feel? And was it useful? In this video series, you'll see a variety of math strategies, and I'm guessing that there are plenty that you did not learn when you were young. I know that I didn't learn them either. Together, we're going to build a tower of strategies, starting with the most foundational skills in this video. We will eventually move up to ones that are much more complex and allow your child to have efficient ways to solve complicated problems. The most introductory strategies are on the ground floor, which is where we're starting today. Think of it as the lobby of our building. We want children to walk in, feel comfortable, and get a lay of the land. Once your child has learned many strategies, they can choose which floor of the building or which strategy to use to suit a problem. As we try more complicated problems, we want your child to have efficient strategies. But before we can do that, we need these ground level beginning understandings. Don't worry, we won't be stuck here forever, but it's important that we have a good foundation that we can build other strategies on top of. With that being said, here are the 7 introductory strategies. That's a lot, but you'll see that they're very basic understandings that we should have students comfortable with before we can go on. One of the first ways we learn to multiply is by drawing equal groups. So 3 times 4 means 3 groups of 4. Students will draw their 3 groups, and they'll put 4 in each group, and then they'll count it all up. You can see this is laborious, and it's going to maybe take a while. There's a lot of room for error, so eventually we'll move past this strategy to more efficient things. After drawing multiple groups, students will move on to repeated addition as another way to show multiplication. Here they're going to do 5 times 2 or 5 groups of 2. So we're actually adding together 5 2s. Skip counting is a great beginning strategy because a lot of times students at this age can already skip count by 2s, 5s, and 10s. And so they can see that by adding 5 each time, we're really just multiplying by 5. Students don't even have to write out the skip counting at this point to use this strategy. They can do it orally, so it's a little bit more efficient than previous strategies. Just a quick word on skip counting. You'll notice that I put skip counting in the introductory video. I did this for a reason. Skip counting is a great way to get students to think about multiplication in a new way as they look for patterns in the numbers. Skip counting is great for 2s, 5s, and 10s in which we feel comfortable and in which there's a very clear pattern that happens. If we're using skip counting for other factors like 6s or 7s, I'm wondering why. Skip counting beyond the 2s, 5s, and 10s relies more on memorization than it does on deep understanding and analysis of patterns.
In the number line model, students are using iterations of the same number hopping down the number line. It has a strong connection to repeated addition, but also lets them see a visual different than the drawing groups that we saw previously. With the commutative property, you can see that the order of the factors does not matter when multiplying. 2 times 3 or 3 times 2 is still going to give us the same product. The last two strategies are pretty simple. The first one is the identity property, where we're multiplying by 1. You can see that it gives us the exact same number as the other factor. And when we're multiplying by 0, you can see pretty simply 3 groups of 0 or 0 groups of 3 is still going to give us 0.
In this video series, we'll cover many more strategies, and I bet there are plenty that you haven't seen before. There were some that I didn't see until recently. I can't wait to share my favorite strategies with you. Until then, in the comments, let me know what is the biggest difference between how you were taught to multiply and what your child is learning. Thanks again for hitting that like button and subscribing to Mathy Goodness. We'll see you again soon.